So who was the quarterback?
Already. All right, I call this regular meeting of the Luray Town Council is now in session. Will you stand and join me in a moment of silence, please? Councilman Sowers, will you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Danielle, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Goffmeyer.
Here.
Mr. Vickers.
Here.
Ms. Lillard.
Here.
Mr. Shiro.
Here.
Mr. Pettit.
Here.
Mr. Sowers.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
All right, do we have any additions to or deletions from the agenda?
Mayor, I move that the town council add agenda item 8C to be the proclamation to the agenda.
All right, any discussion? Second?
Second that.
No discussion? Danielle?
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. Sowers.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Vickers.
Yes.
Ms. Lillard.
Yes.
Mr. Shiro.
Yes.
All right, consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to move that the following consent agenda be considered, that the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 13th, 2021, minutes of the special council meeting September 28th, 2021, and accounts payable totaling $275,719.14.
Second.
Discussion? Danielle?
Mr. Sowers.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Vickers.
Yes.
Ms. Lillard.
Yes.
Mr. Shiro.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Okay, no one has signed up to speak tonight. Does anyone here want to speak? Want to welcome Mr. Rose here, Counselor. Nice to have you this evening. Presentations, we want to go ahead and do this proclamation, Steve? Or so Leah does not have to stay all night if she doesn't want to. I'm sure you're busy. Okay. Ron, you got to pick your camera?
Yeah.
Leah, will you come forward, please?
Okay.
You have to make
It's
the,
photo time.
you do all the stuff first, don't I'll do that after the fact. Never know. I mean, might be some staunch,
Well, Leah, we want to give you this proclamation of recognition. I've known you from the Baptist Church several times. A lovely voice, but you play the piano very well, and it's nice to have you. Anyway, whereas the Luray Church of the Brethren was established in Luray in 1920 and has served the community from its current location at 119 High Street for 81 years, and whereas the Luray Church of the Brethren's celebration of its 100th anniversary was limited due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the Luray Church of the Brethren will celebrate its 101st anniversary, homecoming, on Sunday, October 17th. Now therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and members of town council of the town of Luray hereby recognize and honor the continued service of the Luray Church of the Brethren over the past 101 years to the residents of Luray.
Thank you so
Look this way, y'all.
Ready for the photo op?
You bet.
Let me do one this. Make sure we got one for the paper. 1, 2. That looks good.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you for what you've done. for
This
the
is sweet, and you're all invited 10 a.m. Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion to pass the proclamation?
I so move. Do I have to say more than that? I move the town council approves the proclamation of recognition for the Luray Church of the Brethren's 101 anniversary.
Second that.
All right, any discussion? Danielle?
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Vickers.
Yes.
Ms. Lillard.
Yes.
Mr. Shiro.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. Sowers.
Yes.
Leah, were you waiting to make sure it passed, or?
You never know with this. You never know with this crowd.
Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Luray Downtown Initiative. Ms. Elliott, always nice to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just a couple of quick things. The trick or treat is coming along great. We are getting a lot of calls, a lot of organizations as well as businesses that are going to participate. So it looks like we're going to have a lot for the kids on Saturday, October 30th from 4 to 6 for those 2 hours for that. So that's really good. The Creekside Commons, as you all have noticed how lovely that's decorated. A big hand to Jennifer and Morgan and her crew for helping me get that done. And I think all of Luray looks great. I think they did a really great job getting that decorated. And I had spoke with Rotary last Monday, and that went very well, kind of to fill them in on what's new and what's happening in downtown Luray. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we do have a new business across the street. We have Main Street Flavors, the gentleman that took over the Sugar Shack. And it looks like he's making some improvements over there. It looks like they're putting a concrete pad or something out front.
Saw a crew working on that
Yeah,
today.
I met with him a little bit last week. Seems like a really nice guy, so I think I'm hoping that the community will embrace him and he will enjoy being a part of our Main Street.
Jackie, refresh us on what is going on the 30th, on the Halloween celebration.
On Halloween, it's going to start at 4 o'clock. It will start at Ruffner's Plaza. That's PACA is hosting the costume contest. So the children will be down there to participate in that. Once they finish the contest, the flow is going to be for the kids just to come on up Main Street toward downtown. I believe Blue Ridge is going to be set up in front of their bank. A lot of the businesses are going to be set up in front of their businesses. And then we're going to have people that aren't on Main Street but want to be a part of it set up at the Powell Plaza, at the Visitor Center. And I believe that Chief Cook will be set up there with his candy check, and I think the Sheriff's Department is going to be set up there as well. And then Susan has offered us the parking lot across the street if we need that as well. So it looks like we're going to have, I'm trying to keep the children from going up West Main because it's so sparse. So I'm inviting those businesses to come down and giving them first right of refusal to be either at the plaza or at the visitor center. And
Not blocking the street off or anything, right?
No, sir. Maybe next year.
Okay. And did you get enough council people together to judge, or?
I believe that PACA was
We're
taking care
good
of that.
on
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think Stephanie's heading up that.
Yeah, Mayor.
And I believe if I'm not mistaken, we're doing 5 categories or 4. I think it's, yes, yeah, and then there'll be a first and second place winner in those categories.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Jackie? Thank you very much. You're doing a spectacular
Thanks, Jackie.
job. You really are. Thank you.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Have any public hearings? We don't do. Okay, well, move on. All right, joint meeting discussion, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Mayor, basically the only items that I believe are of import from the joint meeting were that Amity Moeller, the county administrator, stated that due to issues within the Department of Social Services, the oversight of that department has transferred to the county administrator. She did inform the group that the DSS offices had opened to the public Monday, October 4th, and they would continue to do that, and that they're hoping that through some internal changes in policies and procedures that they'll be able to better respond to the community. Second item of discussion had been Town of Stanley indicated that they were experiencing some delay in trash can repairs due to waste management assuming those responsibilities, and the town of Luray also shared that we also had been experiencing some delays since the waste management assumed those responsibilities and the town was removed from maintaining the cans.
Are we having many problems?
I believe monthly we probably get anywhere from 25 to 50 requests for wheel repairs, lid repairs, things of that nature. And historically our staff was able to respond to them within that week. Now we're seeing sometimes a 2 to 3 week repair schedule.
Steve, do we know why Waste Management wanted to take over that?
They did not give any indication. Between Stanley and Luray, we believe that they did not think that the number of damaged cans that we reported and the need for equipment to repair them was accurate, I would assume.
Well, we had an employee that came up a way to change those lids out on the
Yes.
spot.
Yes. And Waste Management, has transitioned. They no longer provide us parts to do repairs ourselves. We simply are
And you
requested to
can.
provide them a list of cans requiring repairs, and their staff repairs them. I believe it's only on Wednesdays that they come in, so they work until they're out of equipment or out of time.
All right. Steve, go ahead with the town hall meeting. Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
town hall meeting, that's what we're calling it.
Our gazebo gathering, our community gathering at Ruffner Plaza is scheduled for this Thursday at 5:30. We invite any and all concerned citizens to come out and just have a general discussion, be able to present their concerns to town council. We're trying to convey to the public that it's not intended to have a long dialogue. We're hoping that we will staff will be taking notes at the meeting of issues, and then we'll put out a statement following the meeting of these were the items identified. If it's information that needs to be provided, we'll include that. If it's actions that we need to take, we'll identify what our plan to address them might be. And if it's simply that we'll note it and discuss it at a future time, we'll include that as a response. But the intent is more just to hear from the public. We'll have hot dogs, chips, and I think water and maybe some soda, so that it's more of an opportunity for people to come out and enjoy a nice fall afternoon at Ruffner Plaza.
Should we stay with the 3-minute limit? What do y'all think on that?
I think it's got a lot to do with how many people are there. If there's a good number of people, you need to give them 3 minutes so everybody gets a chance.
Okay, just kind of play it by ear, see how many show up. Okay.
And do we want to, what do you all think? Should we have the opportunity to ask questions if we feel so led, like if it seems like it's fitting to ask a question about something? No, we don't normally do that with citizen comments.
Yeah, as Steve mentioned, we don't want to really get into too much of a dialogue, but I don't know. We're just again with the play by ear. I guess first time we've done this. So.
How are we doing? Are we up on the stage, or how are
Council
we?
indicated you wanted to be down at the same level, so our plan, Jennifer and her staff will be putting out some tables. We'll have the 3 benches behind the tables for you all to be sitting at. We will have the PA system with a microphone for y'all to respond, and then a microphone for the public to talk so that everybody can hear what's going on.
Is it gonna be good weather, we think?
I think it is.
Yes,
think
sir,
it is.
I don't.
I think the
It's
forecast
not
looks pretty good.
Supposed to be warm, I don't.
It'll be a nice evening, I
Yeah,
think,
and
about right.
we've engaged Chef Bo to do the hot dogs,
Chef
right?
Bo,
Chef
huh?
Bo.
Whoa.
That should bring them in, just
That'll
that.
bring 'em in, yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll just have to kind of play it by ear, see how the evening goes, see how many people show up. This is the first time we've done this. All right, Joey, you have a presentation for us? Want to go ahead and do that now?
I just wanted to let all you guys know that the module replacements have been completed at the water treatment plant. We replaced the 52 existing and put 52 new on. We had a gentleman from New York, the Paul Corporation, come in and help us with this installation. It went rather smoothly. We didn't think it was going to go as smooth as it did with all the brackets and everything and bolts rusting and all, but we pretty much got everything off and got it all repaired. The main number that we look at during this whole process is the specific flux, and when we replaced these, we were reading at about a 6.2, which is still pretty good for 12 years of wear. But once we put the new ones on, and all we did was a chlorine clean, and we're getting about a 10.6 now. And the Paul engineer said that when they do replacements, it's usually about an 8.5 to a 9.0, and so we're way above that. So that's attribute to our raw water coming from Height Spring. But yeah, this is just one of the modules that we took off, we cut, and as you can see inside, all it is just like little rubber straws. And on the this is the top piece, and basically all these little straws are condensed and packed in, and and you can feel it. The water goes in just to each one of these little holes, and the water trickles throughout the day. And then every day we run an integrity test where it pushes about 30 pounds of pressure through each module, and that will push any bacteria or whatever, settlement, whatever it is in there, it'll push it all out back into the raw line that we flush out. But like I said, the installation went well. We were super happy with it. We did replace all of the existing steel brackets with plastic, so we should get a lot more life out of that. All stainless steel bolts. And I looked to see when we run our first clean in place, which we use citric acid, caustic soda, and chlorine to clean, I'm sure that specific flux number will really be high because, like I said, it's going to be super clean. And we did send back 5 of the old modules to Paul for them to do some diagnostics to let us know if they find anything in our raw water and inside of these modules that we need to look out for. But this is here if you guys need to look at it. And like I said, hopefully we get another 12 years out of the new ones. You guys have any questions?
How long did that take, Joey? Like a week or?
Believe it or not, the guy came and he said with the skids that we have, each skid has 26 modules. It usually takes about a day and a half per skid to do, and we got it done in 2 days. And he came back the 3rd day and ran just some diagnostic testings, run some integrity tests, did pressure tests to make sure there was no leaks and things like that. So he was literally done in 2.5 days. So we kind of kicked butt a little bit doing this. And like I said, each one of these came shipped and ready to go, and each one weighs about 65 pounds. And we had to do, like I said, there was 52 of them that we replaced. So and then we took all the old ones to the landfill, and
But you're gonna keep that one as an artifact?
yeah, this one's
the
this
museum?
one's for you guys to have here at the town office if you want, or
Good.
take home, or use it as a nightshade, or whatever you
Mike
want to
can
use
keep it
with
in
it.
his desk.
But no, like I said, we did keep one at the plant just to have to show. But like I said, it's probably 1,000 or so of those little straws in here, and you can't even see the openings on them.
Is the straw supposed to be in there?
Yeah, that's what each,
Filtrates
like I
it.
said, when it goes, the water comes through the top here, and it just goes through each one of these straws, and that's what keeps
Oh, I
any
gotcha.
settlement or whatever in it. But like I said, there's 52 of them, so
Wow.
it's a lot of little straws.
It's great that you took the time to keep that and bring it in, because when we toured the plant, you described all of that you've described
Yeah.
here, but for us to be able to
Actually,
Yeah, and like I said,
Visualize
the
what
first
that
time I
is.
ever seen it was one of the old modules that they just brought and showed us, and it was like coffee stirrers. They were hard. And so I didn't realize myself that they were so flexible and rubbery. But I was telling Steve this afternoon, when that water is in these modules and the air is going through it, the way we know that it's actually working is we walk up and we knock on each one. And if it's solid, then you know it's compressed enough air that it's full. But if you go over and you knock and you knock here, it's hollow, you know that it doesn't have water in it and something's wrong. And the top here, if you look at it, the only reason and only thing that we ever have to do these is if we take the cap off and look and there's bubbles on the top of these little hoses, we have to pin it. And that's all you do is take a small penny nail and just find the one that's bubbled and knock it off, and then you got 999 more to take care of. So it's a real simple procedure, but you just got to keep, like I said, specific flux is the number we look at every morning. I mean, that is our main number, and as long as that is decently high, and they tell us when it gets into the 4s, you're in trouble. You need to replace, and like I said, we've never even been, in 12 years, we've never been in the 4s. We've always been in the upper 5s and 6s, but they say it's only got about a 10-year life, so we got 12 out of it, so we're pretty happy with that.
Thank you,
Any
Joey.
other questions?
Thank you for bringing that
Thank
Sit
information.
around for show and tell. I wouldn't mind checking it out.
Like I said, you can just pull that cap off on the top and see the top of it.
Maybe here.
A little bit.
Interesting.
Jen, last chance. You sure you don't want to say anything? Or you don't want me?
That's pretty
Well,
tough.
you could bring something next time. I don't know what. All right. Mr. Rose, you have anything for us this evening?
Just briefly, I'm going to introduce myself, Daniel Rose. Town Attorney Mr. Botkin's going to be here tonight, but happy to be here with you. And other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Okay. Nice to have you this evening.
Thank you.
All right. Any council comments?
Mayor, I do. I've been thinking lately, I know. We've gotten several letters to council that you've shared with us from a concerned citizen. I think Mr. Feliciani's been here for at least 2 recent meetings, and he seems to be in a hurry for an answer about dog parks. I want y'all to know it's difficult for me to sit here and know exactly what the public wants, and some about 20 years of denial. Well, I think about 8 or 10 years ago, there was a Facebook page about wanting a dog park for about a month or so. And I think some high school kids came and asked about it one time. But what I see one citizen asking for us to make a lot of effort to forget us to spend taxpayer dollars for something that he wants. And I haven't had any calls from people saying they don't want one, they do want one. Perhaps if he could present me a petition saying a lot of people are interested in this, it'd get more of our attention. I just think that we should have prudence in how we spend taxpayer dollars, and I think a lot of people are in need right now, the way the economy is going. So, but I do admire anybody for sticking to their guns and something they want to see in face of adversary, if it's perceived or real. I like my high school kids to have passion like that, but at the same time, I hope that this can be discussed and talked about in due time. It's not something that should be ran into. I just thought I'd want somebody from the council to say something about the fact that we've been getting a lot of talk about dog parks. I'm not totally against them. I just don't know enough yet. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody else?
I just got two little small things. Is that Steve and I last Thursday met with the Virginia Tech Community Design Center, I guess what's called, at Miss Kramer's lot that she's talked about leasing to the town for potentially a pocket park / farmers market facility, and maybe a dog park. I don't know, but we met with them, and they came up, and I just sort of sketched out some ideas just off the top of my head what maybe it could look like, and that was kind of used as a little bit of a rough guide, but we just talked to them and probably spent, I don't know, maybe an hour with them in the office and walked up there, and they're going to come back in a month with a proposal to do some kind of mock-up drawings, meet with the public. I did talk to a friend of mine just a few days ago that works for Virginia Main Street. I was telling Jackie that we could also look to Virginia Main Street. Part of our membership is they will do design work. So I just had mentioned to Jackie maybe touching base with some folks at the Main Street, I think Fraser and Associates. If we can get design, even though I don't think the Virginia Tech really is more than a nominal fee for what they do, and if we can get it for potentially some kind of design work for free, that's better than potentially paying, whatever it could be for Virginia Tech, which again, I don't think it's a lot. But so, it was a good meeting, and we'll just kind of see what they come back with in a month, and for as a proposal, and maybe if Jackie doesn't mind touching
Wait,
base.
is there a timeline? When will they come back? Do you know?
They said they'd come back with a proposal in a month, so they'd have something to say, look, this is what we'll do, and of course it is a fee. And then we just kind of just said, if we could have something maybe concrete, maybe decided by the spring, March, maybe the spring. So that, and again, if we can talk to Fraser and they can do something for the same thing for just part of being in Main Street, that would be super. And then the second thing is, I know you went to, I didn't go to VML, but I was just wondering about the ARP money. I did get another call from Mr. Fudge. I'm sorry, Joe Fudge, regarding a Rise Luray, and I know that Page One also is interested. We threw out some numbers before, but I was just wondering, is there any interest at all to donate? I know Shenandoah has donated to Page One, and I've just been talking to Mr. Fudge for a few months. I mean, I just want to keep bringing it up if there's not interest in putting some money aside. I think sooner rather than later is what they would like, I mean, they're assisting people who really need help. If it's something that the council's not interested in, then I'm just gonna tell them, look, I'm only one person on the council, so I can't, but he did call me the other day, and I just feel bad that, so, I mean, if there's any guidance that way, or that you could tell me, or just, if you just don't know, that's fine too.
Council, any thoughts?
I don't know at this juncture that I'm ready to do that. One of the themes that they didn't have a lot of information on the guidelines because, again, they stated the guidelines weren't complete. But what I did hear, particularly from the speaker that was the closing session, who's a director of National League of Cities, emphasized the importance of sustainable projects that won't be a one-time shot, or creating a situation where we're going to create ongoing expenses. I'm not sure that either one of those cases would do that, but I think that what we have to do, what I would like to do is give it a drop dead date. If they're not going to come up with anything final on it, then we move ahead with it.
So many places have already spent the money.
I know.
Ways. I mean, it just kind of seems, you give the money out and then say, well, we'll get the guidelines to you in a year maybe. I mean, maybe it's just the way it works, but, seems
But we
odd.
have until
26?
2026 to spend it too.
Oh.
So it's not this is different than before. It's not going to go away if we don't spend it. So I mean, I think we do need to be careful with the and I'd like to see the whole thing. I mean, I'd like to see it comprehensively, what we're going to do with it, and then we can then better decide how much we can spend for each entity or each category. If we come up with some broad categories, and certainly if the nonprofits are part of that, then we'll know how much we can distribute to the nonprofits, and come up with a process for the nonprofits to apply for it. And I think Jason had mentioned before, it would be, we need to see some backup in terms of charters, the fact that they are in fact nonprofits, and how the money would be spent, and some way to follow through with that, which would be the case with anything. But the drift I get, and with some other people that I've talked to as well, is that a lot of the communities are looking at something like a brick and mortar kind of thing, where it's something that's, there's where we spent the money kind of thing. So I know it's difficult, like, to keep putting people off when they're asking. But I think, and that's just I'm just one council member too.
Right.
But I mean, I just would like to see something more comprehensive before we start divvying it out to individual nonprofits with no criteria for application or anything like that.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
No, I think what you're saying is exactly right. If we do them one at a time, people trickle in and we'll say, okay, up or down, and that's not the way to do this.
Well, I mean,
Even if-
like set aside amount.
Yeah,
Sure.
And I did talk
Sure,
to
but-
us, I think there are some small businesses. I talked to one the other night that was, I won't name, but it was catering related on Main Street. Probably can figure it out. But they've been hit really hard over it, and that, some of them are just, a couple of the businesses are just assuming that, there's no need to even ask, and so I'd also like to maybe see if we do put aside X amount of dollars for businesses to expand or to make up for what they lost, or would also be a nice sort of category.
Yeah, I would say certainly by the end of the year, if we don't have something, we need to start putting together some kind of plan for it.
Yeah, and even if the state's not giving us
Yeah, because
guidelines,
I mean,
doesn't
Lincoln's
mean that
right.
we can't come up with our own. We
There are a
can
lot of
develop our
communities
own.
they are spending it. I mean, I just want us to be careful that we're spending it in a manner that we won't get hit with.
The classes were by choice at the conference, so not all of us were sitting in the same classes. We pick and choose and go to different ones. And just with what Jerry is saying is that the classes that I was in as well, the theme was more the the sustainable, back to the, I know infrastructure's been a thing of mine, but that is really where most of the direction of the classes I was in was going that direction of, they're basically saying that like you couldn't go wrong with the money being used for town infrastructure improvements and all of that. So was what I took away from it that was in each class that I attended that had anything to do with funding. When it got into businesses or nonprofits, there was really no direction or discussion even on that of the classes that I was in. Like I said, we were in different classes, and, but it is vague to
It is.
at best to know what's right and what's wrong here. Not that anything's really wrong, or
Right,
whatever,
right.
just what they may come back with as far as what is something that you maybe should not have done. You know, it's the guidance is very poor on this. But that's what I left.
Anybody else?
I see the problem is that there's a definite immediate need for some families, some businesses, and then we also have the need not to spend money that we have to generate ourselves if it doesn't qualify. So there's gotta be a happy medium. I mean, if all due haste, I say we help people out, but we gotta have a process, like Jerry says.
And one other point that was made is that some of these entities that are requesting money, there's money available through other agencies as well. There's a lot of money at the state level that some of these nonprofits could maybe apply to because they got a good deal of the money as well. So and someone I was talking to said that they were leveraging some of their money with for water and sewer projects with some of the state agencies that had money as well to do that. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for the nonprofits, not only on the local level but the state level as well.
That's a good point you're bringing up, because that could change the way that we allocate funds too.
Yeah.
We might say that we want this basket to have 30% and this one 20, but if you can get matching dollars or even 50% matching dollars.
If you
on one
matched
of
it
these
with,
buckets,
I know we can't spend on existing debt, but I think,
Sure.
I think you could, with like Virginia revolving loan funds and some of those things, if you leveraged it like that, you could do some pretty significant stuff.
Well, the other significant thing, I didn't realize if this 3.5 trillion infrastructure bill passes, maybe that would pay for some of the water and sewer plans we had. We plan to use our rescue funds on. So we maybe it should wait a little while. But again, those are more long term. I agree with everybody. I think we need to have a plan in place to help the businesses, help the nonprofits, and Steve has given us a very rough draft of how much we're going to put in each category. I think we need to look at that very closely and maybe tweak those and then be ready to go when these things come out, because these businesses and these nonprofits, they're entering their tough time of the year. And if we wait till January to start thinking about it, it's another month or two before we can get them some aid. So I would like to maybe y'all want to do a special meeting? You want to just try to do it at a work session? We don't have a lot going on right now. We'll just try to do it at our next work session.
Yeah, I think next
Anybody
couple
have any
work
thoughts on
sessions would
that?
be good, the next November work
And
session.
I really think these businesses and nonprofits are going to have to show a decrease in revenue, because that's what the PPP loans, the first one, no questions asked. The second one, you have to show a 25% decrease in revenue in your operation. Our church was very lucky. We were very close, but some businesses I know tried, and they didn't get it because they really tightened up this second time. And interesting, at the joint meeting, Amity said that the county had been very tightly audited for the CARES funds, how that was spent.
They just kind of pick people randomly.
Well, is that how they did it?
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
I was just surprised. I didn't think the government had the resources to audit all those folks, but maybe they just picked one here and there.
Yeah.
So what do y'all want to do with that? I think we need, when we get the final guidelines, I think we need to be ready to go, and we can certainly pick the amounts and pick our.
Well, I think we give it another, if we could start with the next few work sessions and looking at, how we're going to divvy it up, and particularly if the need is more urgent right now for the nonprofits, come up with the process for them to apply for it and what we're going to want to see in terms of submission for it.
Is there a way that there could be a listing of all the nonprofits and some conjecture what they might be asking? 'Cause I don't know the big picture of how much is being asked for to begin with.
Well, I guess we won't know till we start it, will we? I mean, how many did we have last time? 25 or 30? Was it that many?
Businesses and nonprofits, but we've not, we can put out is there a need, and, because we've heard from a couple of the local nonprofits, but, there's nothing that says that we can't put out a request for need, just to see if there are additional nonprofits that are interested.
That's one thing we can do now. We can gather up some data on what the need is.
Yes, sir.
But we kind of lumped the nonprofits and the businesses together, didn't we? We're saying this-
We can separate them if.
Yeah, I think they need to be separated.
I agree, yeah.
And I'll just say too, and that, yeah, it's essential that we are prepared, because once we open that door of opportunity to start coming in and submitting those requests, not knowing what that ask is gonna look like, how many people are gonna be in line for that ask, the last thing we wanna do at that point, be like, whoa, we were ill-prepared. We hadn't got our ducks in a line.
Well, and we have to have a good process to justify to the public why we gave it to this one and
That's
didn't
right.
give it to that one.
That's right.
And that's where the tough part comes in, is coming up with a standard that you can hang your hat on and say, well, this is why we did it that way.
And I think that comes down to the track record
Mhm.
of whatever nonprofit is, with documentation and actual numbers of what that nonprofit has done, and its operating procedures, and its fiscal management, all of that. I mean, we need to know if we're giving taxpayer dollars to something that,
But Jason,
It's
I
not
don't
gonna be
I don't
back.
think we can get into deciding how a nonprofit's run. I mean, I'm thinking, again, back to revenue. If the revenue's down, they need to help. I mean, I don't.
well,
I think we
but
can-
if you don't, when we just say revenue's down, when you don't know how that money was spent,
Yeah, but I
Or
don't
what
think
was
we can
spent
start
for-
looking into their records and say, you didn't do a good job here or there. I don't
then
think
how can we
do
make that decision?
Well, I think the government says the revenue's the one you're gonna look at. I mean, there's no perfect, I don't think there is a perfect answer.
Well, there's revenue, but you could also, even with a nonprofit, you can look at infrastructure. There's things, or for lack of a better way to put it, but capital investments, right? If a nonprofit wants to, they're like, hey, here's the project that we have that we want to implement. We're requesting funding to do this. So it doesn't just have to be a drop in revenue. And
So,
and even then, the other difficulty that comes to mind with business or with nonprofit is, especially on the nonprofit side, almost by definition, or at least almost to a T, each one of those nonprofits only serves a small subset of our community, like a very small slice of our, and even a fraction of that is actually going to be town residents. And at the end of the day, this money's for the town residents, right? So it's.
right, and then there are nonprofits that are completely volunteer organizations, and there's nonprofits that have paid staff. If a nonprofit has taken a hard hit and is in dire straits with the revenue, but it was because of salaries that were paid during this time when donations were not coming in, I look at that different than a nonprofit that is 100% volunteer, but they don't have their monies because it was spent in whatever the mission or the work is. So when we're talking about comparing a volunteer organization with an organization that has paid salaries or paid staff, I think you're comparing apples to oranges. And if you don't look at that, I don't want to be the one to find out a year or two from now that someone comes forth and like, well, I can't believe my tax dollars were spent here. When really it was not good fiscal management of this organization. And what my tax money went to was to pay someone's salary, not to provide a service. So those are the complicated issues we have that I think we have the responsibility as elected officials in spending these tax dollars to know that best as we can, best as possible, that these monies are going to the good cause and the best service to the community. And like I say, I think so many people get caught up with the term nonprofit, meaning no one's paid and it's all volunteer. It's not the case. Some nonprofits have very well paid staff. Some are just completely volunteer, and they're two different animals in my mind when you're looking at the fiscal side of it.
Anybody else? So I guess these are questions we need to discuss and decide how we're gonna do it. I mean, it's not gonna be easy, you know, we're not gonna make everybody happy. Probably won't make anybody happy because everybody thinks they needed to get more.
We haven't done it yet.
But, that's what we need to be thinking about, and as Stephanie said, we need to be ready to go. We need to have a plan.
We had discussed postponing prior to VML the decision as to putting out, or I guess looking at hiring someone for managing the program versus us trying to work internally. That's probably a discussion we also need to have, because if we decide to move forward with entering in a contract with a third party for management, that organization might also be, it may be that we would consider that sooner than later, because they may be able to provide some assistance and insight as to what we need to be mindful of in, putting together the eligibility and parameters and metrics for reporting and so forth, as opposed to us sitting around the table and trying to do it on our own.
Well, before with the CARES, we gave everybody the same amount, didn't we?
Has that process been started, looking for someone to?
Yes, sir, we
That's what I
received
thought.
Two proposals, and we had informed both of them that council had decided that because there was so many questions as to where we would go, how we would use them based on guidance from the federal government, we informed both of them that we weren't going to make a decision until we had a clearer idea of what the town's program would be.
Well, the staff are they about ready to have an idea of which one they'd want, or they want to look for more people, or what? Do we do what we want yet for someone to administer the money?
Well, I think both of the firms that responded would be capable
Okay.
of providing.
So they're just selecting one of them then? That's-
Would there also be a possibility of in-house or someone could be employed? Maybe, I know we talked about it a little bit after, but I'm glad you brought it up because we did talk about it for a little bit. Would that be a possibility as well? Bring a
Well,
part-time
we-
person in full-time, or?
We had put out there that it could be a firm or an individual, and it was simply the two firms that provided that. If council desires to hire a part-time, full-time staff, that is entirely your option. The problem with that would be, however we hire it part-time, full-time, it would be temporary because the funds do expire by 2026.
All that temporary.
That's forever.
But yeah.
My kids will be out of high school by then.
Do what?
My kids will be out of high school by then.
Yeah.
Well, again,
But
this
yeah,
is
point
this is
taken,
why we need
Steve.
to start
This
talking
must-
about it seriously
Yeah.
and figuring out where we're going with it, because a lot of good questions, a lot of good ways to go. So we want to just try to start then look into it more seriously at our next work session. If we don't have much else to do, and we don't really have much coming up, do we, Steve, on the horizon?
That's good. And I think we start to look at it, instead of from the bottom up, and who we're gonna give the money to, we look at it, a little higher level, and how much, my main question is, how much are we gonna devote to infrastructure? Because that kind of will tell us what we can do with some other categories, and because one thing, as Jason said, one thing that we hear consistently is the infrastructure and the utilities are the way to go with them. It's the most sustainable, and it's something that will benefit everyone for years to come if we can stabilize water and sewer rates and make sure that we can provide these services without going into additional debt service, and get these projects up front, not only from the standpoint of existing customers, but from the standpoint of economic development. If we want to attract new housing and get builders in here, that we need some areas that we can expand our infrastructure into and provide that kind of thing. This is a great opportunity to do it. It really is.
And a lot of this is not what we see on the surface. Joe, what was the average water loss per day before the leak was found? And what were you averaging there?
We were about 250,000 gallons a day.
Okay, so 250,000 gallons a day. And how many months did that go before we were able to locate it?
About 5.
Right, so those type of issues are That's a significant issue.
How
That's
many
serious
gallons a
issue.
day? I don't want to guess. I think I know what it is, but what many gallons a day do we typically use as a town?
We usually do anywhere between 700 to 800.
I was gonna say 1 million, but okay, yeah.
Okay, so,
So, and $250,000 is going in the ground. I mean, 250,000 gallons is going in the ground. Wow.
Our loss ratio had gotten way up, hadn't it?
We had I just got Daniel Aldridge reports this week, so
Uh-huh.
I haven't figured it out, but it's going to be huge.
so I mean, these type of issues you can't ignore, and you don't see it. It's underground, our water and our sewer, but the problems are there. And Marion,
The equipment,
right?
the equipment sees it because it's running. I mean, those finished water pumps were running everything they had to pump that much water out when we usually don't do that.
Yeah.
But that one repair really took a big
Oh,
hit.
yeah, as soon as literally our pressure, we were going about 122 pounds of pressure because it was pumping so much water, and no sooner than they fixed it, it was 113. I mean, it dropped 8 pounds
Just like that.
But you look at the wear and tear on our pumps that we're constantly running overtime, basically. So it's not just the loss of water. It's the pumps and everything that's trying to compensate for that loss of water. So how much life was lost, in those pumps running that hard for 5 months.
Tripping off about every other day in the finished water building because
Right.
we're just so hot. Because we're not used to doing it much
Right.
per day. So,
So,
yeah, it was really well.
yeah.
All right,
I think the top-down, what you just mentioned, and we had not discussed that, I think that is correct. We need to look at, I think, the big projects first, and we come down and then what do we have once some of these priorities are taken care of?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That probably is the focus, the direction we need to take. I agree.
Well, Steve, didn't you have a rough draft at one point of course,
Well, yes, sir, and in the interim, both Joey and our wastewater treatment staff have identified additional projects that we'll be very happy to share with y'all. Some of it is the maintenance of just planning on when we're gonna be needing to replace some of the equipment, but then, some of the major items include going to the electronic automatic meter reading, which, in and of itself will benefit our customers because it will alert us almost instantaneously when it detects a leak rather than having to wait the month for us to go out and then retrieve that information. But it will also give us a much more accurate amount of water that's going to each of the homes. So if your 10 or 12-year-old meter is reading slow, once we go to that, you'll be seeing a little bit higher utility bills, but it will better reflect what everyone is using. So, yes, sir, we have a good list of projects for consideration by council.
I'm hoping mine's running fast.
They don't do that, unfortunately.
Only go one way,
That
too
sounds
bad, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
families tend to run through a lot more water than they think they do.
all right, anybody else? All right, there is the Greenway Foundation is dedicating a fountain in memory of Lena Rickard, and that is Saturday at 2 o'clock. And that fountain is right in front of Goshen. Everybody knows where that is, if you can make it. So I'd love to have you. All right, anybody else? Mr. Rose, nice having you this evening. Come back to see us again. Thank you. All right. Meeting's adjourned.